The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Insights. I'm Aaron Parsegian and I'm joined by ACC Professor of Political Science, Tim Kuhnlein. Tim, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So we're going to be discussing a little bit about the presidential cabinet. These are selections Trump is going to be making or appointing someone who will eventually get voted on by Congress. So let's talk a little bit about which positions he's actually having to fill himself.
Okay, well, every president coming in gets to appoint about 4,000 political appointees. These are typically the upper echelons of the various departments. There are 15 departments of the cabinet, and then literally hundreds of agencies within the executive branch. All of these were created by Congress over the 230 years of our country's existence. The more famous ones are, of course, Department of Defense Secretary and things like this. So about 4,000 of them, about a good half of those are actually approved by the Senate. And with simple majorities, a good portion of those. So that's what we're seeing unfold as we speak. The real controversy around this, and the reason it's probably getting so much attention is it begs the question, where will the administration try to lead the federal government? Keeping in mind that the executive branch is supposed to follow the direction of Congress, but we have reversed that role in many respects.
He's choosing them, and then the Congress will vote on that, regardless of the other way
around.
Well,
he definitely gets the appointment choice, but it has to receive confirmation. It's just that once he gets his selections confirmed, there's this sense that then the executive branch leads us to our destiny, and rather than Congress kind of leading us and the president following through and executing what Congress tells him to do. We have had a long-standing trend and the shift of power.
And so the premier positions in the cabinets that everyone's always talking about, it's Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State. So tell me a little bit about the major ones and who he's kind of driven towards or is choosing.
Well, I think they're all very important. It's the real controversy, I think, is the types of people he's selecting for some of these pivotal issues. Recently, the biggest question is the military and the national security apparatus. Who is he choosing? Are they hard lines? And indeed they are. They're people that you can kind of imagine are going to take us in a particular path policy-wise. And then you get into the questions of some of the domestic departments, like housing and urban development, a lot of controversy there.
That he chose Ben Carson for.
Right, and then of course Department of Education, Betsy DeVos begs the question, are these people really qualified? Do you need to be qualified? I mean, who are these people supposed to be? They're there for maybe 4 years, maybe 8 years. And are they going to be able to really transform those agencies in any significant way? Because you have to understand there are about 2.8 million people who are permanent employees of these agencies at the federal level, that these political appointees are supposed to help orient towards new policy directives, coming out of Congress primarily, but of course we know it's driven by the president.
And like you said, there has been some controversy with some of the picks. Specifically the one we just mentioned, Ben Carson for urban development and housing. It's something he's not technically qualified for his past work.
He
was a doctor,
right?
And it's kind of an interesting
choice. Health and Human Services may have been a better department, but obviously this is political, right? And they symbolize something. I'm not sure yet what that symbolizes, that pick symbolizes. I mean, I'm sure there's something relevant there, being a black man who grew up in an urban center, but again, does that qualify him? Just like Betsy DeVos, I mean, she's never played a role in a management position in education in any context. So clearly her position on charter schools is what's driving his choice there. I think the real controversy, aside from their qualifications, is what do these people look like and where are they coming from? There was a lot of talk about draining the swamp. And that's a disturbing comment in and of itself, because it relates to slaves back in the Civil War context. They fled for security in the swamps, and the swamps were often drained to flush the slaves out when they were rebelling or whatnot. But it's a different scenario here, theoretically. But what he's done is chosen a lot of people who fit the bill of traditional Washington politics, or worse, one could argue.
And a lot of these are very wealthy people,
extremely
too.
wealthy. I mean, Betsy DeVos is the wealthiest of any of his choice of cabinet members related to education. But there are like 3 billionaires. You know, he's definitely covering the gamut. There are some, I think, 3 or 4 women now. We have 1 African American. Not that this really makes a difference per se, but it is symbolically significant. And then, of course, the other controversy is his choice for the Treasury Department and agencies related to managing the economy. Again, he went back to Wall Street when he was very critical of Wall Street.
Right, it's kind of an interesting move, especially because this is someone, he had a large majority of working class voters voting for him, and then he's appointing all these people who, you know, can't really relate to the working class. They're the kind of the higher ups in those situations.
There are a lot of parallels here historically. You know, I've always thought that what Trump kind of reflects, in my mind, the image I have of, say, Lyndon Johnson, that kind of bombastic personality, kind of vulgar at times, but also Andrew Jackson. And actually the politics that we're experiencing right now are very similar to the politics that we experienced back in the 1820s and 30s. And there's a lot of similarity with Andrew Jackson, the spoils system, perhaps an indication that we're going to challenge the merit-based system of employment in federal government. I don't want to overstate that because these are political appointees that he's playing politics with. How that'll ripple into the agencies over a 4-year window or an 8-year window, you know, who knows? Bureaucracies are very strong, very powerful, very durable institutions, and that may be, in some respects, a saving grace to stop the ebb and flow of this partisan, quest for power. So they're interesting. You know, again, the ethics, the cronyism, you know, we've heard a lot about crony capitalism over the last couple of decades, but we're probably broaching on an era of not only crony capitalism, but crony politics. And I just, you know, I think our country has had a reputation, despite our American sort of animosity towards federal authority for the most part, of being a pretty uncorrupt system, putting aside things like Watergate and whatnot. But we've kind of been a model for the world to quest for merit-based systems of governance. I just hope that this doesn't take us in a deleterious direction. I'm hopeful that it won't. It's part of the larger struggle of finding the proper balance. But there's a lot of fear among both liberals and conservatives that if Trump is not careful, he could really send some ripple effects through the system that won't be constructive.
All right, well, we're going to continue this conversation a little bit. Don't go anywhere because there's more insights coming after the break.